Hey everybody, Marco here from Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Methods, back once again to try to go faster on a lesson that we made last week that was an hour and 41 minutes long. So we're going to try to do the same lesson here, explaining less and just going through an overview, so maybe you can be enticed to watch the longer one to actually get some of the cool explanations if some of this stuff doesn't make sense. So we had a whole morning here of horrible troubleshooting while we couldn't record anything with some horrible distortion. We got that fixed, luckily, so here we are to give you this lesson. So let's go faster. All right, so getting through our sheets here, this is a fretboard diagram that we're going to be dealing with. Shows our fretboard. Okay. And so let's play this super simple shape of 3 notes. No worries on what they are. Got a nice distortion sound today. So we're going to play right here on the 10th fret today. So these 3 notes, no worries on what they are. And but you can move the lesson today on down to any fret for any of the notes or chords or keys that we're talking about today. So moving on from there, we play this super simple shape of 3 notes. Here's something amazing. This simple shape can also be major or minor. And right as we play it there, it's kind of ambiguous. There's no real root. I mean, there's sort of an implied root because as 3 notes, that could be implied as the root, making it an F. But we really don't have anything else to go on, so because it can be something else, it's just kind of an ambiguous harmony of 3 distorted guitar tones hanging out. But the cool thing is, this could theoretically be, we're going to show you through this lesson today how you can build this simple 3 shapes into any mode, major or minor. We're going to get to what do you call it, relatives, like relative major and minor, and pentatonics, arpeggios, intervals, and more. And it's easy. So let's start with the roots and get going. So we want to add in a root to give this, to place these 3 notes somewhere. So we have a choice in our roots where we can make it major or minor. So, and that just depends on what root we choose. And when we choose a root, we have 3 local roots, or meaning close to this shape. For major or minor, there's always 3 local roots, which is really cool. In this diagram here, I've the red ones are the ones I really kind of consider, and the orange one comes up from time to time. But for like playing a comping a chord, I'm gonna kind of consider that, or this, if the bass is already in the keyboard, it's already covering the low parts. I might add in that just to really identify this whole harmony as related to this root, which in our case here is the 10th fret, 6th low string, D. So D minor. So when we get this root, then all of this harmony has a relationship to this root, and they become, you can describe these harmonies as intervals. So the interval here is a flat 7 to the root. Alright, and then a flat 3rd, and a flat 5th. I don't think the distortion is doing us any favors, actually, but it's what I set up today, so we're going to roll with it. Anyways, so let's add one more note temporarily so this becomes a familiar bar chord shape, so we kind of know, we can really, beginners can really be familiar with where this all comes from. Alright, so we'll move on from there because we got to go fast today and not explain everything, and you can leave that for the if anything goes by too fast here, watch the hour and 41 minute version of this lesson. It was the lesson that was uploaded. If you go on the timeline or whatever, search my videos, it should be the one uploaded just before, a couple days or weeks before this one. So we want to expand this into an arpeggio, and this gives us the ability to give us some note choices to play with, and these would be the most inside note choices, maybe barring that flat 7. but you at least get the root, third, and fifth, which is what you want to be totally inside. So, and the cool thing is this is going to be, when we get to major, you don't have to change anything. This almost all stays identical. So let's kind of hear that right now. I got a backing track set up, see if it'll play here. And as I hit play here, nothing is happening. And that is a disappointment. So why don't I go here and go... So there we switched the same, but that's getting ahead of ourselves, and I'm making the lesson too long, so we got to move on here. I need to adjust the screen for myself. Okay, so the next we take this into pentatonics, because as you can see here, this shape is really just missing one note to this arpeggio shape to become a pentatonic. And what is it missing? That is important. It's missing the 4. And that kind of tells us something. The information is that this is like your first away note, but it's your most universal away note. You only have 2 more away notes to go to complete an entire 7-note scale. And those notes become the identifiers that really will give this an emotion, because those are half steps. Those, whatever 2 you include, will be half steps. So anyways, you can see we've got no half steps here, and we add in the 4, and it's yeah. So we'll hear that really quick. Let's hear that really quick, and you can hear how it wants to go somewhere. It doesn't want to sit there alone. See, it kind of doesn't have a resolve to it like the other tones. So you might hang on it if you want to actually build some tension. So now you actually have your very first tension and release concept under your fingers, and you can experiment from there and just listen to how the 4 doesn't resolve, and maybe that's what you want for a moment. And then that also leads to playing with intention, which we go over a lot in the longer lessons. So let's move on from there. We're going on to our next sheet here. So here we have the same 3 notes, but now it's just doing that. We've played this all in relation to some major triad shapes. These are the inversions right here in the lighter colors. And that starts to pull our ear into the fact that this same set of 3 notes can be major as well, which is neat. And the major that it becomes is a relative major to this minor that we just built out of that same 3 notes. And of course they're going to be relatives because, well, they're made out of the same 3 notes. And so if you think about chord spelling, you go, oh, that would make sense. This is probably D, F, A, C. Not that it's an inversion of F, A, C, but, and so it's like F, A, C, I think, yeah. And so F, A, C, that's an F chord. So D is actually D minor. 7 is actually an F major chord with a D root, if you didn't know that. So, but not necessarily to totally, have all that stuff memorized to make some of these sounds. So here we have the same 3 notes as in the first example, and we can see that the root is in the center. So it becomes easier to identify. So if we want that's a C, D, E, F, G, A. So now we can see here that It's right in the center of the root there, so we can move that around and find if some, if it depends on, your situation. If someone is, calling out an F major chord, or you have to just, for some reason, you're like, oh, I need F major right now, you can use this simple straight up and down shape and find your note on the G string, and you have it. You have something useful. So where is the root for this one? So what we're going to do is see it as a basic root that we're actually not going to concentrate on today, but this would be your simplest root to make this a complete chord, because you're like, oh yeah, I know that chord. That's a real easy shape. As a matter of fact, isn't that the A shape? Sorry. Isn't that the A shape from Caged? And yes, it is. So that's the A shape from Major Caged, and here we have it up on F. So let's keep moving here. If I got to adjust some sheets here. All right. So this is where our three roots actually are. We want to consider the one that's in our shape. So now what we have is failure to communicate. No, we have the beginnings of the same shape we were just dealing with. We're going to build that arpeggio, then build it into pentatonics. Let's go quickly. Did I miss anything? All right, no. So here we expanded into our arpeggio shape. Trying to play fast, and I can't do arpeggios fast. Yes, I'm a terrible guitarist like that, but I can do a lot of other things that don't require me to do that, and so it's good to have something to practice. So, all right, so here we have our three roots. An F tonal center is implied. It's a concept you want to kind of get in your mind. What's happening here? How are these things? These root notes changing. This is where, or if you hear people talking about tonal center and you're kind of not sure what it means, it's all about this. It's all about what root is being considered. And you can do that with some low tones, with a chord, with a bass, with a high pedal tone, whatever. So, so we can move this into pentatonics. And here we'll need, I do a little. Here we expand into pentatonics, and now we can see that we had two missing notes to get it into pentatonics, and that was the 6 and the 2. So the 6 and the 2 in major are going to be like your most accessible away notes, like your first steps away. Let's hear that intentionally, and to do that, I got to make a quick adjustment to a So, get back to my screen here. Come on. Alright, so let me jam over the 6 and the 2 again. So that doesn't work. We're going to have to work on these hotkeys for Studio One here. But anyways, let's get back to this. Alright, so 6 sounds in, but it's not resolved. Let's go to the 5. There's some resolve. Let's go to the 3. From 6 to 3. Yeah, there's some resolve. 6 to the root. Now I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to end a line on the 6. See how that sounded noodly? The 2 didn't work either. But let's try to... See, I had to bring it back to that root, and I was off the beat, and so it still sounded noodly. Now that completed because I got to the roots, got to a chord tone on the rhythm. So remember, a big part of this is rhythm. Okay, so you know what I need? Next time I mess around with this, I gotta have my Atom SQ plugged in so I can have the my play and stop keys handy, or configure some hotkeys on the Studio One, and well, we're gonna have to do that. Okay, so let's move on because we don't want to drag this out to be as long as the other lesson. So where does this all come from? And let's start taking this into the major and minor scale. So to do that, now we've got, first of all, let's see, okay, we've got this pentatonic shape. So let's take a look here. Yeah, this is what we're doing. We can plug in two notes to this pentatonic shape. The orange and blue notes are the same exact note. I'm just showing you that you plug them in inside the big square, and with the darker square here, they hang on the outside. So I call them the gut notes because I just kind of refer to them as the orange notes that are in here. So you can see X and Y are the same because that is the same note. The top and bottom notes stay the same. And so let's start in the middle here with the balanced shape. Now, another thing to think is, as we went over, when we have this root, our three notes there are minor. And when we have this root, our three notes there are major. Now, when we plug in these note choices, we get a scale, a major scale, but we have a choice. We can have, for this major and minor, we can have a darker major and minor pair, a relative pair. And we can see here that would be Phrygian and Mixolydian. Now you got those modes that you've always heard about. Now don't get too excited. Modal playing is cool, and you can practice with modal backing tracks and learn to play with intention. Oh no. Weird, my computer just totally dropped out. I don't know what happened there, but okay. We can play with my hard drive is probably filling up. Anyways, we can play with it's probably telling me I'm going on too long. So here's what we need here. You just take a look, pause this screen, learn what you're doing. Lighter is Dorian and Lydian. Darker is, or balanced is Aeolian and Ionian. And then you only have to change, if you think about balanced, you only have to change one note. The X slides up, raising a tone to get a lighter, more buoyant sound. And we take this one, the only choice that we can go lower with, and we go lower with that one to get the darker. So that's why Ionian and Aeolian have the focus when you hear talk about major and relative minor, and you never even really hear about these relative pairs here. And just because people, a lot of people haven't, really got the visualization or pulled that out of their subconscious and realized what's going on and how easy it all is. So here we have the tonal center with the added. And now we can see the intervals. This is a flat 6 and a 2, and with major, it's always the 4 and the 7, and that's always the same. You're always dealing with a 6 or a 2, either flatted or regular. When it comes to major, and you're dealing with a 4 and the 7, but you can just think that hey, they're half steps, and that's what's going on. So yeah, and but if you hear some information like, hey, always avoid the 4, well, you can kind of see like you can actually not avoid the 4, just use it with intention, understand what it's really doing. So let me play this scale really quick, and I'm going to play like the 4, the 6, and the 2. So if I just played the pentatonic. So you can hear that is a way sounds better with a backing track. So you got um, this. We'll go over the in-depth explanation happens if you want. If this intrigues you, then go watch the hour and a half video. So you got this the same thing with this concept here, and then we move into the brighter pair, the Dorian and Lydian, which I have the raised 6 here. If you hear raised 6, now you know what people are talking about. You can visualize it in your mind, because that's really where understanding is. People don't realize, like, you or and this is also for visual thinkers, people that get that picture in their minds. Not everybody does that, but when you do, when people are say like, well, it's the raised 6, you can go, oh yeah, I know that scale, and know what they're talking about. But you say, well, Mark, the scale is cool, but I want to be able to play all over my fretboard with this concept. How does Joe Satriani do that and just know this 6 everywhere, really easy and quick? Because that's the deal to being able to process this stuff quick. It's got to make it easy, and you can. Here it is. But before we do that, here's some other concepts you may want to plug in. Just look at this. And so I don't have to explain it and make the lesson longer. I explained it on the longer version, so here is a list of all the modal names along with their chord numbers, along with whether they're major and minor, and an explanation about them. It's very handy. Pause the lesson here, move on. So if you want to take this all over your fretboard, this is the last sheet today. We've got a square. The screen there jamming around, but that was just me knowing where all the squares are. Here's how you know where they are. I've got a row of squares here. They're all connected by this until you get to the B string shift, the GB string shift, and you have to know that it moves up, but you should know that that's a Dorian shape. We're going to see that in a minute. So if you're now toggling around these squares, where can you find the other row of squares that's directly above and below? So you got this broken row here, and I explain more about why it's broken and all that stuff. We're going to move on. There are some missing notes, though. How do you find the missing notes? Well, it's easy. In front and behind the square, you have a wall of notes. And we're going to play it here. So here I was purple note, square, purple note, purple note, square, purple note, square. Now, if you move away from the square, you get a regular kind of pattern here that I didn't print out. Not too hard to know all that. I've covered some of that. Jamming on some other lessons. Check my channel. You're going to learn to master your fretboard. Visualized. Alright, so different than anybody else teaches anywhere on YouTube. But lots and lots of guitar channels. No one's doing this. Now, because now someone will start doing this. Anyways, and not that this is like, that great or anything. A lot of people are kind of like, what the hell, this is kind of weird. And so if you think that too, that's fine. This is how I visualize it. And so we talked earlier about seeing that square as Dorian. So you can see the pattern kind of here if you can pick it out. And you can see how that we got the pentatonic in orange, and then the gut notes, it's all just overlaid over the actual pattern here. You can see, oh yeah, there's that Dorian scale, and that's how I can get in and out of it. By the way, those 3 pentatonics that we went over in that other screen, which was what, right here, no right here, no right here, no, yeah, right here. That's all there is. This series of squares is also, and purple notes, the wall, is also just a manifestation of these 3 pentatonic shapes. That's all there is. That's all there is. These 3 shapes. And try it out. Try to find another note in the major scale. It's all of these, and every other is a black key on the piano. All right, so Moving on, we've got the Phrygian shape is kind of overlaid using that same square box, and you can kind of see these pentatonic shapes also is using two boxes. They're usually actually two in a broken box. So here's two in a broken box for this Phrygian Mixolydian shape, and then they take it through the rest of your fretboard like that, because as long as the music, the background music, is holding the chord, the tonality, the tonal centers, this works. You don't need a shape. You don't need to work on playing from one note to the other like is commonly explained. That's where people are teaching you modal melodies and not actually telling you about playing modes across your fretboard. A lot of teachings don't specify that for whatever reason. They're confused about it. They're not sure about how it actually works. So, okay, and there is the balanced scale, the Aeolian, the Ionian Aeolian combo there. And so, like, if you had these three notes here on the A, you could play A minor or C major. It's a little harder to play G shape. Isn't that some Van Halen off of Fair Warning or something? I don't know. Anyway, so there you have it. We're going to shut the lesson down here so I can get that number that people like, 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it's been, probably longer. And we'll go from there. But, all right, I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for watching if you did. And be sure to check out the longer lesson for much more in-depth rambling and